Hello everyone, how are you all? Welcome back to my channel Economics Made Easy.
Now, we ended our last video with the term law of diminishing marginal utility. So in today's video, we'll learn more about law of diminishing marginal utility. Let's first look at the definition of this law. So the definition says this law basically describes the familiar or fundamental tendency of human behavior. It tells us how a human is behaving in a particular situation. Right? So a proper definition of this would be it states the law of diminishing marginal utility states that as a consumer consumes more and more of the units, as he's consuming more and more units of a particular good, the utility from every additional successive would be every next unit that he is consuming diminishes or it goes down. So this law is all about the going down of the marginal utility that a consumer derives from the consumption of a particular commodity. So we did saw this with the help of a diagram as well as with the help of a table in our previous video. So if you haven't watched that, please go and have a look at that. So this is the definition that tells us what is law of diminishing marginal utility. Now let's see what are the assumptions of this law. So it assumes that the various units of goods are homogeneous. Homogeneous means they are identical. They do not have any difference in them. Okay. The second is there is no time gap between consumption of the different units. This means that you're not consuming one unit today and you're consuming the next unit tomorrow. That's not happening. You're consuming every unit. After you've finished consuming the first unit, you're consuming the second unit, then you're consuming the third unit. So there is no time gap. So this is what the law assumes. Now the consumer is rational is also one thing that the law assumes. Rational means that his main aim is to maximize his utility from the product. He does not want to take the utility or stock it or anything. He just wants to maximize his utility that he is deriving from the product. That means that the consumer is rational, and that is one assumption of the law. Now the fourth one is that tastes and preferences and fashion remains unchanged. That means, like, suppose you are demanding one particular thing. Suppose you think that a particular commodity can satisfy your want at this point in time, right? After you've consumed that commodity, you think that some other commodity can satisfy your want. So that is not what happens in this law. You're consuming the same good or the same, you're consuming the units of the same good. You're not changing your tastes or you're not changing your preferences of that good. Fifth one is consumers possess perfect knowledge of the price in the market. So you have perfect knowledge of what the price of the good is or what usage the good will serve to you. Next is no price change. There is no price change happening. That means your demand could not change for that good. The price that you've paid for the first unit is the same with the price as the price that you will pay for the second unit, and it will be the same for the third unit also. It assumes law of marginal diminishing utility. So of course, the law assumes that as you are consuming more and more of the good, your utility for that good that you derive will go down. Now the last one is utilities of different commodities are independent of each other. That means if you're suppose your the utility that you derive from tea could not be linked to your utility that you derive from coffee. So both the utilities from both those different goods is different and they will be counted as different utilities. Now the law is based upon three facts. There are three facts. Those were the assumptions that we made. These are the assumptions that we made. The fact on which the law is based upon is. So these are facts. These are not assumptions that we're making. The first one is that the want of a man are unlimited. But single want can be satisfied. We saw in our first video that human wants are unlimited. That is the main problem for economic problems to occur. But if you take a single want of yours, that can be satisfied. right? If you want to buy an Apple phone, that can be satisfied. So that's a single want. If you are taking every single want of yours and trying to satisfy that, you can definitely satisfy one want at a time. So as a man gets more and more of a commodity, the desire of his want for that good goes on falling. Right? Now, if you're if you start consuming more and more of, suppose you start buying more and more of Apple phones for yourself, not for some or distributing it to others or anything, for yourself. So you can't buy more than, let's say you can buy more than 4 phones or 5 or 6, but there would come a point where you would not like buying any of the phones, right? So there will be a point where you will reach a point where you would not want to buy more of that phones, even if you're getting it for free, does not matter. You just do not want to take it because you do not have the use for that, right? You've reached your maximum satisfaction level from that particular phone. So a point is reached when the consumer no longer wants any more of that good, and that's a fact. This is not any assumption that we are making. This is what a rational human behaves. So if you are a rational consumer, you will definitely behave the same. Now the second fact is that different goods are not perfect substitutes for each other. Now substitutes are something that a good that you can replace with some other good. So there is a fact that different goods are not perfect substitutes for each other, because you cannot always substitute one good for another. You can, like, a common example in economics that we take for substitute goods is tea and coffee. So you can't always substitute tea and coffee, right? Now they are not perfect substitutes. You can of course substitute. You can drink coffee one day, but if you're a tea lover, you will definitely need tea the other day. So they are not perfect substitutes. They are substitutes but not perfect for satisfying your particular want. Now the third fact is there is no change in tastes of consumers. Now this isn't, we can't say this is completely a fact, but in the short run, if we consider, then it is a fact. You just cannot go to jump from one good to another, or your taste just can't change from one good to another in fraction of seconds, or we can say in an hour or so. It just can't change so quickly. So in the short run, this is a fact that there is no change in the tastes of consumers. The taste remains the same in the short run. Now let's see what this law exactly is. So I've taken an example of a hair. The example that you're thirsty and you want to buy some water, some bottles of water, a glass of water we're taking over here. So the example is, suppose a person is thirsty. Suppose you're thirsty, right? And the price of water is 0. You do not have to pay anything for a glass of water. It's just how much you're consuming. So let's see how would you behave in such a situation when you are thirsty and you do not have to pay for water. Now you take one glass of water and you're very thirsty, so it gives you great satisfaction. That one glass of water would give you great satisfaction. So it has a great utility for you because it's giving you great satisfaction at that point in time. Now you take the second glass of water. Now what happens? The utility that you derived from first glass of water is not the same as that of second glass of water. It will be less because your thirst has been quenched to some level. So the importance that that second glass of water holds for you is not equal to the importance that that first glass of water held for you, right? So the utility falls. The satisfaction that you derive from that second glass of water falls. Okay, now it's explained over here. The utility declines because the edge of your thirst has been blunted to a great extent. Now, in easier words, this would mean that your thirst has been quenched to a great extent by that first glass of water. So the utility from second glass of water will be less. Similarly, if you drink the third glass of water, the utility would be even less than the second one, and so on. So that this happens. Now the fourth glass of water would have a less utility than the third glass of water, and so on. This goes on. Now the utility goes on diminishing with consumption of every additional, successive would mean every additional unit, till it drops to zero. It will start falling, the utility starts falling till a point when it reaches zero. That point is your maximum satisfaction. That means you're completely satisfied, your thirst is completely quenched, and you just cannot take any more of that good. So even if it's free, if you are a rational consumer, your profit is just, your motive or aim is just satisfaction, maximizing your satisfaction. So there will come a point when you've maximized your satisfaction and your utility falls to zero. The utility that you derive from any additional unit just falls to zero. And even if you're forced to take that glass of water, you would decline, because this will lead to disutility. And your total utility will start to fall. Now this is when the marginal utility starts becoming negative. When the total utility starts to fall, your marginal utility becomes negative. We saw in the previous video how we calculate marginal utility from total utility. So I'll try linking that with this video so that you can go to that previous video and have a look how we solve all of these things. Now the rational consumer, if you're a rational consumer, you'll stop taking water at a point when your marginal utility becomes negative. Not even negative, we can say over here when it becomes zero. When your marginal utility becomes zero, you'll just stop taking that good, even if it is for free, right? So in short, when a good is free, a consumer increases consumption of a good so long its additional utility provides him positive marginal utility. When it starts giving you zero marginal utility, that means that you have reached your equilibrium. Equilibrium in economics, equilibrium is a state where everything's equal, or a break-even point, or it's everything's equal. It's the point with maximum satisfaction. You just cannot, that's the ideal point for you. You do not want to move above that. You do not want to go below that. So you've reached your equilibrium, you've reached your maximum satisfaction when your marginal utility reaches zero. So this is an example of the law. Now we'll understand it with the help of a diagram or a graph. We've actually done that in the previous video also, so we'll just quickly go through this. So this is when your total utility is increasing, right? As your total utility is increasing, this is increasing at a diminishing rate. That means it first starts with an increasing rate. There is a long increase or a high increase in total utility, and then it starts to increase at a diminishing rate. It is still increasing, it's positive, it's increasing, but it's increasing with very short proportions, we can say. And your marginal utility starts to fall. When you reach your saturation point, or when your total utility is zero, is maximum, your marginal utility is zero. So this graph shows that your marginal utility is zero, and when your total utility starts falling, your marginal utility becomes negative. Negative over here, and it's positive over here, right? It's still, total utility is still positive, but it starts to fall. So your marginal utility becomes negative. Now, being a rational consumer, you would stop at this point. So this is the quantity you will stop at if you are a rational consumer. This is the quantity you will stop at if you are a rational consumer. Because at this point you've reached your saturation point, you've reached your equilibrium, you do not want to move away from this. So it's easy. We've actually studied this with the help of a table, as I've mentioned earlier in our previous video. So that way it's more easy to understand. Now, however, there are some of the limitations to this law. This law, of course, tells us the, very normal, how a normal or a rational consumer would behave in a particular situation. But it does have some of the limitations. So some of the limitations are in case of intoxicants. For example, we can take consumption of liquor, or we can say consumption of cigarettes, or any intoxicant we can say. So this law does not hold for such consumptions, because as you know consume more of liquor, or the more a person drinks, the more he likes it and the more he wants to drink. So it does not, so there's a limitation in that way. It does not apply to money, because as you earn more and more money, you'll definitely need more of that. You'll just not, in case of money, there'll never be a saturation point for you. You will always want more and more and more. So it does not hold in case of money. It does not hold in case of rare collections. So over here I've taken example of diamonds. Suppose you have two diamonds. Uh, Suppose there are only two diamonds in the entire world, and you have one of them. No, like suppose there are only two diamonds in the entire world, and someone has that first diamond. But even if you get that second diamond, right, your marginal utility would be the same. Even if you have the first diamond and you get the second diamond, your marginal utility will actually increase. It will not decrease. It will either remain same or it will increase. It will never decrease if it's a rare collection. So example could be when you are collecting rare stamps or you're collecting rare coins. So in that case, this law does not hold. Now utility is subjective, of course. It differs from person to person. For me, the utility I derive from a particular product could be different from the utility you derive from that same product. Like if suppose I've had water just 1 hour ago and you haven't had water for past 1 day, so the utility for that bottle of water would be different for both of us. So it's subjective. It depends from person to person. Another limitation would be cardinal measurement of utility is not possible. So there are actually two kind of utilities. Cardinal, there's ordinal, and there's cardinal. So ordinal is one which we can actually define. Ordinal could be which can be ranked. So you can actually rank your utilities. You can actually rank the utility that you're deriving from one bottle of water, second bottle of water, the third bottle of water. So you can rank your utility like 1, 2 and 3. In case of cardinal is actually giving a specific utility value. So you can't, give a specific utility value to the utility that you're deriving. Suppose you can't say that the first bottle of water is giving you 10 utils of utility, or it's giving you 12 utils of utility. So we actually do that in case of numericals, to solve for numericals, but it's not possible. It's actually a difficult task to do. You can't actually just put a number to the utility that you're deriving. Every commodity is not independent commodity. Now we assume that every commodity is independent, but if we look at facts, it's definitely not independent. Marginal utility can't be estimated for all commodities. It's difficult to estimate the marginal utility for all the commodities. And the last one would be Giffen paradox does not explain the Giffen paradox. So we'll study more about Giffen paradox when we come to the chapter of demand and supply, or the law of demand. So we'll do this in detail over there. So as of now, these are the limitations of the law. Yeah. So that's all for today, and we'll come up with our next video lecture soon. So till then, keep learning. Also do subscribe to the channel, like and share the video if you find the content helpful. Thank you.